Hey guys, what's going on? It's me, Paterson, and welcome back to a new video. Today, I'm going to be showing you how you can create your own vintage whiskey brand quite easily with drawing, Illustrator, mockups, and Photoshop. Now, the biggest thing when it comes to whiskey is that sort of heritage feel. We've seen a sort of trend in the past 10 years of whiskey brands taking their branding and making it modern, but having that heritage feel. I won't go into them because this video is not sponsored by whiskey brands, but it is sponsored by Yellow Images. The main thing to know about creating a whiskey brand, especially a traditional one, is that it has to fall in line with sort of a vintage look. And when I talk about being appropriate, package design and logo design sort of fall together when it comes to whiskey products because the logo is everything to the brand. The liquid inside of the bottle looks the same and most likely will taste the same depending on how much you spend. So it's important to differentiate that with branding and creating it well. So today I've set myself sort of a challenge to show you how I would personally go around making a vintage logo and packaging it correctly and presenting it to a client through the use of mockups. The first thing I did was obviously start sketching. I use a brush in Procreate that you can buy from a website, which again is linked down below, and this brush allows me to create a natural brush script. You'll notice as well that I'm not working too hard on it being perfect. I'm just trying to get a basis of some lettering down, and I've chosen the name for this challenge, Paterson Scotch. The cool thing about this project is that I know having a human element, so having human mistakes inside of the design is okay, especially in the logo, because I'm trying to give that aesthetic of old logo design, vintage type design, and that goes very well with sort of hand lettered logo designs where they don't look perfectly vectorized. So I go ahead and I choose my favorite brush script idea and then I start refining it. Now this is a process that anyone can do. You don't need an iPad, you can just use paper and tracing paper. The process goes as follows. If you draw out your lettering using the brush pen, so using calligraphy to do it, then use tracing paper over the top to basically refine it. And you keep doing this process of refinement until it looks the way you want it. Now for time in this video, obviously I haven't gone through the whole process because that can take forever. Whenever I'm doing a logo type design for clients, obviously it takes a lot longer, especially when they're vintage, because I need to make sure it is correct for their brand. But for this illustration, I chose my first refinement where I went ahead with a pencil on a new layer inside of Procreate on my iPad and made the logo how I wanted it to be. The next step is to obviously bring it in to Photoshop, and I've got it right here in front of me. So here's the logo in front of me, and this is not vectored at all, but it is sketched, and you can see it's in a high quality file. If you're doing this with paper, then you can just take a picture on your smartphone. Nowadays, you don't particularly need a scanner, but the higher the resolution of the work, the better this effect will work. Now, obviously, this isn't perfect at all, but it flows pretty well, and I want it to look like it's humanly done. So I don't want it to be ultra perfect, so I can have that vintage feel. So what I'm going to do with this is bring it into Illustrator, and we're going to image trace it. Now that it's in Illustrator, we need to vectorize the type because logo designs are always vectorized. You'll have heard me bang on a lot of the time about never using image trace, but that isn't technically true. I do use image trace, especially for projects like this. Sometimes when I'm lettering out or creating type like this, I want it to have a very rustic vintage effect, a weathered aged effect. And the way to do that is to simply do the easiest option, which is image tracing, but there are a few things you need to know before you do this. I'm going to do it for now to show you. So I'm going to highlight my actual artwork, which is just a picture, and then I'm going to go to image trace, and it's going to sort of lag out for a second. And we need to press this button to the left, which will give us our options. Basically, what we need to do is fiddle around with these options here. So we've got threshold. So this threshold can come down ever so slightly, and it's going to take a minute for it every time to refresh. I'm going to bring the paths down quite a lot as well, because I don't want too many paths in there. Corners can come to the middle, so I don't want it to have too many corners, and noise comes all the way up. And then the most important one of all is ignore white. When you press ignore white, any of the white in the image is just instantly taken away. So I'm going to keep refining this with basically using the threshold to make sure it looks good, bring the paths up if I need to, bring it down if I need to. And obviously when you're doing this, in image trace form, you need to spend more time on refinement, because as you can see here, if I scroll in, you can see these horrible little bits here. In a normal design, you don't want them. Sometimes what a lot of people do is vectorize it, rasterize it, then vectorize it again, or image trace it again with the pen tool. So what I'm going to do now is press expand, and you'll see we've got a load of anchor points. What we need to do is get rid of them. So I'm going to use a software or a plugin from Astute Graphics called Vector First Aid. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just basically check the selection, and there's a lot of problems here, so I'm going to fix all those problems first. Then I want to press this button, and anyone can do this. It's basically the simplify function inside of Illustrator. If I press this, you can see that it's removed 707 points, and that's important for logo design, especially like this. The less points, the less large the file will be, or the smaller the file will be, and also the more you can edit with it and the smoother it will look. So you can see here why a lot of people don't use image trace, because there's a lot of artifacts here, but for this sort of situation we can use it. So now that I've got my logo design here and it's looking pretty nice, we need to go ahead and create the sort of packaging and the mock-up side to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look on yellowimages.com, who are sponsoring this video today. If you don't know about Yellow Images, they create amazing mock-ups. You can become an author, as you can see here. Not only do they have mock-ups, they've got these things called Images 360, which if I click on this cheese wheel here, I can basically load in 144 images, which will give me 144 images of a 360 image. So you can see here that when I'm scrolling around, it's got every sort of image available, different angles and everything else. So that's really cool from Creative Images. So I'm going to go into the actual object markups and just type in Whisky. Oh, I spelled it wrong. Let's spell that correct. And you'll see we've got a load of these bottles and glasses. Now what I want to do is have a good bottle, and I've already chosen one that I particularly like. This bottle here is the one that I've chosen, and I've downloaded it already. And the cool thing about it is that we can create a really nice high definition, high fidelity looking mock-up to make it look real, to see if it will work, see if the branding will actually work. But before we do that, we need to create some assets around here, because it's not good enough just having the logo on its own. We need to make it more vintage and create sort of a badge or a stamp for it. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually use a circle. Now I use these as paths. The cool thing about this is that I can make type go along it, so it'll look like it's arcing along. So I'm going to go ahead and center both of these, and I'm going to go to my type options and go to type on a path. Click in the middle, and in block caps I'm going to type in blended Scotch whiskey. Now that looks awful right now, but don't worry, we can fix this. First thing, we need to center it, which will bring it all the way down here. Then we need to use these little handles to bring them to the sides over here. This is kind of an important part, because we need it to be centered at the top. Then I'm going to change the typeface to something called Gilroy. I like Gilroy because it's a nice basic sans serif that's very balanced across the board. Now that we've got this, we need to go to type options, go to type on a path options, so many options. And then from here, we go from baseline to center. And what that will do is that will center the type on the path. I'm going to increase the tracking like so, and increase the size of this like so, so we can get a cool effect. I want it to sort of arc around quite a bit, and that looks cool. Now the thing that we need to remember about this is that we need to make sure that it is kind of symmetrical from top to bottom and left to right, so it's all balanced. So the way to do this is highlight this, copy and paste it in front, rotate it all the way around holding shift, and we've got another set of writing down the bottom, be it the same. I'm then going to select the one on the bottom, go to type options again, so go to type on a path, type on the path options, and we're going to press preview and just hit flip. When we flip it, it will flip it to the right way round. Press OK, and there we go. We've got like basically a circular stamp. I'm going to change this to product of Scotland, even though it's not, obviously. And over here, I'm going to write established 2020, because there's no point in lying and saying that it's not. And I'm going to make sure this is centered as well. Now, the main thing when it comes to this sort of section of adding information in is that you can add stories or ingredients about the product that you're giving them, but you're trying to give the illusion that it's vintage, right? A lot of whiskey companies hold to their heritage, but in reality, it's just really good type design and using typography composition to give an effect. So I'm going to have established right there, and I can even decrease the size of it. And then I'm going to go ahead and create a box down here. Now this is way too big, so I'm going to change the type here to something like Poppins Semi Bowl, decrease the type, but I'm going to go ahead and fill with placeholder text, which is a really clever thing to do. When we do that, it's basically just got loads of text, lorem ipsum, that we don't read, but it shows what it'll look like if we were having text there. And then I'm going to go ahead and move this down because I don't want it to be so small. So I've changed this typeface to Times because I want it to look a bit more upmarket and a bit more whiskey-esque. I'm going to expand this over here and we can add type in there whenever we want later. I'm going to increase the tracking on the established over here. I always like the idea of having a number on the bottle of like what it's based upon, like what's this product, so people understand, and it gives it that sort of look. So I've got a number here and I need an icon there. Now the icon I'm going to do is going to be really strange, so bear with me. I'm going to grab all this, scale it down, move it over here, and I'm going to create an icon that I like. So I'm going to create an eye. I'm going to create a cool icon really quick. And with this, I'm going to make it more vintage and look like it's hand-drawn by just highlighting this, going to Object, Rasterize, and that will make it into an image. And then we image trace it back in, like we did last time, decrease the threshold down to basically 0, decrease the paths until it looks like it looks hand-drawn, sort of where all the corners are kind of merging to one. Ignore the white, expand. And again, we need to go and use vector first aid to make sure that it works correctly. Okay, now that I've got the eye, I'm going to scale it down and bring it into my design over here. I want it to kind of fit within here as an icon. I don't know what kind of icon it is. It's just something that we've got on here. And then I'm going to bring 2020 down here, just again to fill out some space, but you can put anything you kind of really need down there. So now this all looks pretty central. What I'm going to do is group this all together and I'm going to bring it out over here. Now there's a couple of different things we could do with this. Like we could make it all look a bit more vintage if we wanted to, but I want to keep this nice looking typography going up on here. I don't want it to mess it up too much. The next step is to put this into a mock-up. Now here is my mock-up that I've got from Yellow Images. We've got a shrink sleeve up here, and anything in blue is basically where you can put artwork to make it look like it's on a piece of packaging. So if I go here to the label section here, it's very neatly designed from Yellow Images. You just go ahead and double click on this, and this is where you can put your design, and this green line and these grids can help you with your work. So what I'm going to do is go back to Illustrator, highlight all my work and just simply copy it, and I'm going to paste it back into here as a smart object, and I'm going to scale it up like so, get rid of the background for a second, save it, and every time you save it and go back in here, it will appear here. Now that looks awful, so we need to fix this up even more, and we're going to do this by creating a background. Now I like the green background that I've got here, but I need to change the color of my work by going to blending options, going to color overlay and making sure that it's in white. We'll see how this looks, and that looks a bit better. I'm going to go further out, bring it down. That looks a bit too big for my liking, so we're going to come down a bit more. We're going to add 40% in there as well, as it's a product that's got alcohol in it, but not really, because it's not even real. And we're going to match this to the side over here. Scale this all down again, and then something that I want to do is have the number 3 all the way around the type over here. So we're going to bring it up, scale it right the way up, get rid of the O, we don't need that. Scale it all the way up and then decrease the opacity. If you don't know what to put in the background, kind of put numbers and things in there because it can help with the actual composition inside of the work that you've created. And there we go, we've got a very vintage based looking whiskey mock-up, and you can see if I scroll right in, it's very high quality in there, and it's really good for taking pictures for your portfolio. Obviously I've done this not in very much time at all, so if I can do this in the space of 23 minutes, then of course you guys can do it as well. I just want to thank Yellow Images first of all for sponsoring this video. It's the website that I use to go and get this awesome mock-up that I'm showing you right here right now. If you want some amazing mock-ups to present your designs to clients, or maybe just to upgrade your portfolio, or use for your photo manipulations through Images 360, then go ahead and click that link down below in the description to learn more. If you guys did enjoy this video, please press that red subscribe button. About 70% of you who watch don't even press it, but when you do, it lets me know that I'm doing a good job. And also, if you like, comment, share, do all that stuff, it helps me as well, getting people to see more of these videos. As always, leave your comments down below. Any suggestions on videos that you guys like, leave them down below, and I will catch you guys in the next video. See you soon. Goodbye.